100, 200, 300 rounds in succession, which you can achieve with a machine gun.
Fire!
Wars were once fought with single-shot rifles. Then came the invention of the world's greatest killing machine. The machine gun didn't just kill, it slaughtered with terrifying efficiency, turning the battlefield into a blood-soaked nightmare. As the machine gun evolved, its deadly power only grew, making mass death horrifyingly easy. Now, let's delve into the dark, gruesome history of the machine gun. The world's most efficient killing machine, Richard J. Gatling, and the birth of the machine gun. The evolution of machine guns has dramatically shaped warfare, making them one of the deadliest weapons on the battlefield. The MG-42, with its terrifying 20 rounds per second, exemplifies this lethal efficiency. Machine guns have been a crucial element in military history since their inception in the late 19th century, continually evolving to become more deadly and efficient. At the heart of this evolution is Richard Jordan Gatling, the inventor whose name became synonymous with rapid-fire weaponry. Born on September 12, 1818 in Hartford County, North Carolina, Gatling was not initially focused on warfare. In fact, his early inventions were agricultural, such as the seed planter that made farming more efficient. But as the American Civil War unfolded, Gatling's attention shifted to a much grimmer subject: the staggering loss of life, not from bullets, but from disease. Gatling observed that more soldiers were dying from disease than from combat, and this observation sparked an idea. He believed that if he could create a weapon that one person could operate, capable of firing as rapidly as 100 soldiers could shoot, it would reduce the need for large armies. In turn, this could decrease the exposure of soldiers to the deadly diseases that ravaged camps during the war. This line of thinking led to the creation of the Gatling gun. The Gatling gun, patented in 1862, was a hand-cranked multi-barrel machine gun capable of firing up to 200 rounds per minute. It was the first machine gun to achieve widespread use and success. Gatling's invention was a technological marvel for its time. The gun featured 6 to 10 barrels arranged in a circle, all connected to a hand crank. As the operator turned the crank, the barrels rotated and bullets were fed into the chambers from a hopper. Each barrel fired one bullet, then rotated away from the firing position, allowing the next barrel to take its place. This mechanism allowed for continuous fire without the risk of the gun overheating, a common problem in early firearms. The gun's rapid-fire capability was unmatched, making it a formidable weapon on the battlefield. However, despite its revolutionary design, the Gatling gun faced significant challenges in its early years. The U.S. Army was initially reluctant to adopt the weapon, partly because of skepticism about its reliability, and partly because of the conservative mindset of military leaders who preferred traditional firearms. General James Wolfe Ripley, the Army's chief of ordnance, famously dismissed the Gatling gun, claiming that you can kill a man just as dead with a cap-and-ball smoothbore. Despite this setback, Gatling persevered. He partnered with the Cincinnati Type Foundry Company to produce the first batch of Gatling guns. These early models were used by Union forces during the Civil War, although they saw limited action. General Benjamin F. Butler was one of the few Union commanders who recognized the potential of the Gatling gun and purchased several for his troops. These guns were used during the Siege of Petersburg in 1865, where they demonstrated their devastating firepower. After the Civil War, the Gatling gun began to gain more acceptance. The U.S. Army officially adopted the weapon in 1866, and it quickly became a staple of American military forces. The gun was used extensively during the Indian Wars in the American West, where its rapid-fire capability was employed against Native American tribes. The British Army also adopted the Gatling gun and used it during their colonial campaigns in Africa, most notably during the Zulu War of 1879. The commercialization of the Gatling gun was a significant turning point in the history of firearms. Gatling continued to refine his design, and by 1870, he had developed a new model capable of firing up to 400 rounds per minute. This version of the gun was equipped with a more reliable feeding mechanism, known as the Bruce feed, which allowed for continuous fire without the need to stop and reload. This improvement made the Gatling gun even more effective in combat and solidified its place as one of the most important weapons of the late 19th century. As the years passed, the Gatling gun continued to evolve. In 1893, Gatling introduced an electrically powered version of the gun, which could fire up to 3,000 rounds per minute. This was a significant advancement, as it marked the first time that a machine gun could achieve such a high rate of fire without manual operation. The electrically powered Gatling gun was a precursor to modern automatic weapons and demonstrated the potential of machine guns to revolutionize warfare. Gatling's invention had a profound impact on the development of firearms. The principles behind the Gatling gun, such as the use of multiple barrels to prevent overheating and the gravity-fed ammunition system, were later adapted in the design of other automatic weapons. One of the most notable descendants of the Gatling gun is the M61 Vulcan, a rotary cannon used by the U.S. military. The Vulcan is capable of firing up to 6,000 rounds per minute and is used in aircraft, naval vessels, and ground vehicles. The legacy of Richard J. Gatling and his invention is undeniable. The Gatling gun changed the way wars were fought, making it possible for small groups of soldiers to unleash devastating firepower on the battlefield. While Gatling's original intention was to reduce the number of soldiers required in combat and thereby lessen the impact of disease, his invention had the opposite effect, leading to even more deadly and efficient methods of warfare. By the time of Gatling's death in 1903, the Gatling gun had already begun to be eclipsed by newer, fully automatic firearms, such as the Maxim gun. These new weapons, which used recoil to reload and fire, were even more efficient than the hand-cranked Gatling gun. However, the Gatling gun's influence on the design of automatic weapons cannot be overstated. Its basic principles continue to be used in modern firearms, making it a key milestone in the history of military technology. The evolution of machine guns. The evolution of machine guns has been a defining factor in the history of warfare. Among the many innovations in this field was the creation of the Maxim gun by Sir Hiram Maxim in 1884. The Maxim gun is the first self-powered machine gun. Before its invention, rapid-fire weapons like the Gatling gun required manual operation, typically by cranking a handle. Maxim's innovation was groundbreaking because it used the energy from the gun's recoil to eject the spent cartridge and load the next one, making it fully automatic. This concept not only increased the rate of fire, but also made the weapon easier to operate. Hiram Maxim was born in Maine, United States, in 1840, but later moved to England, where he developed his famous gun. The idea reportedly came to him after someone remarked that if he wanted to make a fortune, he should invent something that will enable Europeans to cut each other's throats with greater facility. Taking this advice to heart, Maxim focused on creating a weapon that could fire continuously without manual intervention. The Maxim gun could fire 600 rounds per minute, a rate that was unheard of at the time. This high rate of fire was due to its innovative recoil-operated mechanism. When the gun fired, the force of the recoil pushed the barrel and bolt backward. This movement ejected the spent cartridge and then loaded a fresh one into the chamber, ready to be fired again. This cycle continued as long as the trigger was held down. The gun's ability to maintain a high rate of fire with relatively little effort revolutionized military combat. The first major deployment of the Maxim gun was by the British Army during their colonial campaigns in Africa. The gun proved to be devastatingly effective against forces that were often less well armed. One of the most infamous uses of the Maxim gun was during the Battle of Omdurman in 1898, where British forces, armed with several Maxim guns, killed thousands of Sudanese warriors while suffering very few casualties themselves. As the Maxim gun spread, it became a symbol of European colonial power. It was used not only by the British, but also by other European powers in their efforts to conquer and control vast territories in Africa and Asia. The gun's ability to mow down large numbers of opponents made it a key tool in the maintenance of colonial empires. The phrase, "Whatever happens, we have got the Maxim gun, and they have not," became a grim reflection of the power dynamics of the time. The Maxim gun's impact was not limited to colonial wars. By the time World War I broke out in 1914, the Maxim gun had been adopted by almost every major army in the world. Its ability to fire continuously made it ideal for defending positions against waves of attacking soldiers. Entire battalions could be cut down in minutes by a few well-placed Maxim guns, leading to staggering casualties on both sides. During World War I, the Maxim gun and its variants were responsible for a significant portion of the war's casualties. The gun was used in almost every major battle of the war, including the Somme, Verdun, and Ypres. The weapon's effectiveness in static defensive positions led to a deadly stalemate, where advancing troops were often mowed down by machine gun fire before they could reach enemy lines. The devastating power of the Maxim gun was a key factor in the horrific casualty rates that defined the Great War. World War I and the machine gun. World War I was a conflict that forever changed the nature of warfare, and at the center of this transformation was the machine gun. The Maxim gun, which we discussed earlier, set the stage, but the war also saw the rise of other significant machine guns like the Vickers and the Lewis guns. These weapons brought unprecedented firepower to the trenches, forever changing the face of combat. The Vickers machine gun was an evolution of the Maxim gun, adopted by the British Army in 1912. This gun quickly became the standard heavy machine gun for British forces during World War I. The Vickers was water-cooled, like the Maxim, but it was lighter and more reliable under combat conditions. Weighing about 33 pounds without its tripod, the Vickers could fire up to 450 rounds per minute using 3 .03 British cartridges. It required a team of 6 men to operate efficiently, 1 to fire, 1 to feed the ammunition, and the rest to assist with tasks like reloading and cooling the gun. Alongside the Vickers, the Lewis gun played a significant role in the war. Unlike the Vickers, the Lewis gun was air-cooled, making it more portable and suited for use by advancing infantry. It was developed in the United States by Isaac Newton Lewis, but was widely used by British and Commonwealth forces during the war. The Lewis gun weighed around 28 pounds and had a distinctive barrel shroud that helped with cooling. It could fire 500 to 600 rounds per minute from a 47-round drum magazine. Trench warfare, which defined much of World War I, was where machine guns proved their worth and their horror. Trench warfare was a defining feature of World War I that saw soldiers entrenched in long, narrow ditches, facing each other across no man's land. Positioned along the trenches, they created deadly fields of fire that could mow down waves of advancing infantry. The ability of machine guns to fire hundreds of rounds per minute made it nearly impossible for soldiers to cross open ground without suffering massive casualties. The devastating impact of machine guns was most notably seen during battles like the Somme and Verdun. At the Battle of the Somme in 1916, British forces faced entrenched German troops equipped with MG-08 machine guns. The result was catastrophic. On the first day alone, the British suffered over 57,000 casualties, many of them caused by machine gun fire. The sheer power of these weapons forced armies to rethink their strategies and led to the development of new tactics, such as the creeping barrage. In this scenario, artillery fire was used to suppress machine gun positions as infantry advanced behind the barrage. The machine gun's ability to inflict mass casualties also highlighted the need for better protection and mobility. Soldiers began to dig deeper trenches, build more fortified positions, and employ barbed wire to slow down enemy advances. Armored vehicles, such as tanks, were developed in part to counter the threat posed by machine guns. These innovations were direct responses to the deadly effectiveness of machine guns on the battlefield. Technological developments during World War I. World War I was a turning point for military technology. The industrialization of warfare during World War I marked a significant shift in how battles were fought. Before the war, weapons were often handcrafted and produced in limited quantities, but as the war began, countries ramped up production to meet the demands of a global conflict. This shift led to the mass production of machine guns, grenades, and artillery, which became critical to the war effort. Machine guns, such as the Maxim and Vickers, were manufactured in large numbers. Their production methods were streamlined to ensure that they could be delivered quickly and in vast quantities. For instance, by the end of World War I, the British Vickers machine gun was being produced at a rate of over 20,000 units per year. Similarly, grenades and artillery pieces were also standardized. The fragmentation grenade, which could scatter deadly shrapnel over a wide area, became a common and effective tool in trench warfare. One of the most significant technological developments was the introduction of tanks. The first tanks appeared on the battlefield in 1916 during the Battle of the Somme. The British Mark I was the first tank ever used in combat. It was a massive, cumbersome machine with tracks to cross trenches and barbed wire, and it was armed with machine guns and cannons. Although it was slow and prone to mechanical failures, the tank marked the beginning of armored warfare. Over time, tanks improved in speed, armor, and firepower. By the war's end, they had become a crucial part of the battlefield, with both sides using them in larger numbers. Another major breakthrough was the development of military aircraft. At the start of World War I, planes were used primarily for reconnaissance. But as the war progressed, aircraft technology advanced rapidly. The introduction of fighter planes, such as the Sopwith Camel and the Fokker WWII, transformed air combat. These planes were equipped with machine guns and became vital for controlling the skies and providing support for ground troops. The use of airplanes for bombing and strategic reconnaissance added a new dimension to warfare, changing how battles were planned and executed. The experience of World War I led to major changes in military tactics and command. The static nature of trench warfare highlighted the need for more flexible and coordinated approaches. Commanders realized that traditional tactics, like mass infantry charges, were no longer effective against well-defended positions, armed with machine guns and artillery. This realization led to the development of new tactics, such as infiltration and combined arms. Infiltration tactics involved small, specialized units, bypassing enemy defenses to attack from the rear or sides. This approach aimed to disrupt the enemy's ability to respond effectively and was a direct response to the stalemate of trench warfare. Combined arms tactics, on the other hand, integrated different types of forces such as infantry, artillery, and tanks into coordinated operations. This approach allowed for more flexible and effective assaults, making it possible to overcome strong defenses and break through enemy lines. The lessons learned from World War I also led to changes in military command structures. The need for better coordination and communication on the battlefield prompted the development of new methods for planning and directing operations. The use of telephones, radios, and more advanced signaling systems improved the ability to command and control large and complex military forces. World War II, the continued evolution and use of machine guns. World War II saw some of the deadliest fighting in history, and machine guns were at the heart of much of the combat. These weapons evolved rapidly during the war, becoming more efficient, more deadly, and more integral to military tactics. The German MG-34 and MG-42 were two of the most feared machine guns of the war. The MG-34, introduced in the 1930s, was the first general-purpose machine gun. It was versatile, could be used in various roles, and was extremely reliable. However, it was also expensive and time-consuming to produce. To solve these issues, the Germans developed the MG-42, which quickly earned the nickname Hitler's Buzz Saw because of its terrifying rate of fire. This machine gun could fire up to 1,800 rounds per minute, twice as fast as most other machine guns of the time. The sound it made was like a ripping or buzzing, which struck fear into the hearts of Allied soldiers. On the American side, the Browning M1919 and M2 machine guns were the backbone of U.S. firepower. The M1919, a .30 caliber machine gun, was used in nearly every aspect of the war. Its design was robust and reliable, making it a go-to weapon for American forces. The M2 Browning, also known as Ma-Deuce, was a .50 caliber heavy machine gun. It packed a punch, capable of taking out light armor, aircraft, and enemy troops at long ranges. The M2 was so effective that it remained in use well beyond World War II, and is still in service today. The Soviet Union had its own workhorse in the form of the DP-28. This machine gun, chambered in the 7.62 by 54 mm R round, was known for its distinctive pan-shaped magazine mounted on top. The DP-28 was simple and rugged, designed to function in the harshest conditions of the Eastern Front. While it didn't have the rapid-fire capabilities of the MG-42, it was reliable and easy to use, which made it popular among Soviet troops. Machine guns in World War II were not just carried by infantry. They were also mounted on tanks, trucks, and planes. The MG-42, for example, was often found on German armored vehicles, providing suppressive fire against enemy infantry. The American M2 Browning was mounted on everything from jeeps to bombers, where it was used to shoot down enemy aircraft or attack ground targets. Machine guns were also used on aircraft, where they were vital for air-to-air combat and strafing runs on ground targets. In infantry roles, machine guns provided essential support during both defensive and offensive operations. Defensively, machine guns like the MG-42 were used to create deadly zones of fire that could stop enemy advances cold. These guns were often set up in strategic positions where they could fire on advancing troops, making it nearly impossible for the enemy to move forward without taking heavy casualties. Offensively, machine guns provided suppressive fire, allowing infantry to move up under cover. This tactic was especially important in the brutal close-quarters combat that characterized much of the fighting in Europe and the Pacific. The impact of machine guns on World War II battles was immense. During the D-Day landings, German MG-42s were responsible for many of the casualties suffered by Allied forces as they stormed the beaches of Normandy. The high rate of fire and strategic placement of these guns made them incredibly effective at defending key positions. In the Pacific theater, the M1919 and M2 Browning were essential in the island-hopping campaigns, where they were used to mow down enemy soldiers in the dense jungle fighting. Case studies: iconic machine guns and their impact. World War II and the years following it saw the emergence of some of the most iconic and influential firearms in history. These weapons not only shaped the outcomes of battles, but also left a lasting mark on global military tactics and culture. One of the most famous machine guns and rifles that played pivotal roles during and after this period is the PPSH-41. This was a Soviet submachine gun that became a symbol of Soviet firepower during World War II. Designed by Georgy Shpagin and introduced in 1941, the PPSH-41 was known for its high rate of fire, capable of shooting up to 900 rounds per minute. It used a 71-round drum magazine, or a 35-round box magazine, which made it particularly effective in the brutal urban combat of the Eastern Front. The PPSH-41's design was simple and rugged, ideal for mass production and use by Soviet soldiers, many of whom were not highly trained. This weapon was instrumental in the Soviet Union's push against Nazi Germany, and it continued to be used during the Korean War. The Thompson submachine gun, better known as the Tommy gun, was another iconic weapon of this era. Originally designed by John T. Thompson in 1918, the Tommy gun gained notoriety during the Prohibition era in the United States. Here, it was favored by both law enforcement and criminals for its compact size and powerful 45 ACP cartridge. During World War II, the Thompson was used extensively by Allied forces, particularly by American soldiers. It was reliable with a rate of fire around 700 rounds per minute and was especially useful in close-quarters combat. The cultural impact of the Tommy gun is significant, often associated with 1920s gangsters and World War II soldiers, making it one of the most recognizable firearms in history. The German MP-40 submachine gun was another key weapon during World War II. Developed in 1940, the MP-40 was known for its ease of use, reliability, and effectiveness in close combat. It fired 9mm rounds and had a rate of fire of approximately 500 to 600 rounds per minute. The MP-40 was widely used by German infantry, particularly by paratroopers and platoon leaders. Its simple design made it easier to produce in large numbers, and it became one of the most iconic weapons of the German Wehrmacht. The MP-40's influence extended beyond World War II, with its design elements being used in the development of future submachine guns. The AK-47, designed by Mikhail Kalashnikov in 1947, is perhaps the most iconic firearm of the 20th century. Although it was developed after World War II, the AK-47 played a significant role in shaping modern warfare. The rifle was designed to be simple, durable, and easy to use, making it ideal for mass production. Its 7.62 by 39mm cartridge provided a balance of power, range, and recoil, which made it effective in various combat scenarios. The AK-47 quickly became the standard issue for the Soviet military and was adopted by numerous other countries. It became a symbol of revolution and conflict, seen in the hands of soldiers, rebels, and insurgents around the world. The AK-47's impact on warfare is undeniable, as it remains one of the most widely used and recognized firearms in history. Finally, the M16 rifle, developed in the United States, became the standard-issue rifle for U.S. troops during the Vietnam War. Initially designed by Eugene Stoner in the late 1950s, the M16 was chambered in 5.56 by 45mm NATO, a smaller and faster round than those used by previous rifles. This allowed soldiers to carry more ammunition and maintain control during automatic fire. The M16's lightweight design and high rate of fire made it ideal for the dense jungles of Vietnam. However, early versions of the M16 faced reliability issues, which were later addressed in subsequent models. Despite its rocky start, the M16 went on to become one of the most influential rifles in modern military history, with its design influencing countless other firearms. Impact on warfare and modern military tactics. Machine guns have completely transformed the battlefield, making military tactics far more complex and strategic. From the muddy trenches of World War I to the urban battlefields of today, these weapons have shaped how wars are fought. In World War I, machine guns introduced a brutal new chapter in warfare. Their power to unleash a barrage of bullets meant that armies had to rethink their approach to battle. Defensive strategies got a massive boost from machine guns, leading to the infamous trench warfare, where these guns created impenetrable walls of lead. This era also saw the birth of fire and movement tactics. While one group kept the enemy pinned down with relentless machine gun fire, another would move forward. This tactic has become a staple of military operations and remains crucial to this day. As wars evolved, so did the role of machine guns. The concept of combined arms operations took root, where machine guns, tanks, artillery, and air support worked in concert to dominate the battlefield. For instance, during the Chechnya conflicts, Russian tactics adapted to include nimble, heavily armed squads capable of swift, coordinated strikes. A similar strategy was evident in urban combat during the Iraq War, where tanks and infantry teamed up, with machine guns playing a key role in clearing paths and covering advancing soldiers. Today, machine guns are not just about raw firepower. Advances in technology have made them lighter, more accurate, and more reliable, allowing their integration into various combat scenarios. They're now part of digital networks and precision strike capabilities, enhancing their effectiveness and making them integral to the sophisticated, networked nature of modern warfare. This ongoing evolution keeps machine guns at the forefront of military technology, constantly reshaping combat tactics and strategies. Conclusion. Throughout the annals of history, machine guns have dramatically reshaped the face of warfare, delivering both innovation and devastation. Their advent marked a significant shift in how battles were fought, profoundly altering military tactics and the scale of conflict. The very essence of these weapons lies in their ability to unleash a torrent of bullets within seconds, something no other kind of small arms could achieve before their introduction. This capability alone has given them a notorious reputation on the battlefield, turning the tide of numerous conflicts across various terrains and epochs. The rapid-fire nature of machine guns introduced a new element to warfare, enabling armies to hold their ground with unprecedented effectiveness, creating impenetrable walls of bullets that opponents could hardly overcome. However, the efficiency of machine guns brought with it a grim consequence: the massive escalation in the number of casualties. Battles that once counted their losses in the hundreds saw these numbers skyrocket into the thousands, as machine guns mowed down advancing troops with chilling efficiency. The psychological impact on soldiers facing such relentless firepower was profound, instilling a sense of helplessness and terror that changed the nature of combat morale. Moreover, the strategic implications of machine gun technology have lasted far beyond their initial wartime applications, influencing modern military strategies and doctrines. The principles of using these weapons have been refined over the years, from the trenches of World War I to present-day conflicts, where they still play a crucial role in combined arms operations and urban warfare. The integration of machine guns with other forms of combat support has enhanced their effectiveness, making them indispensable in achieving battlefield objectives. Reflecting on the enduring legacy of machine guns, it's clear they have been a double-edged sword, ushering in advances in military technology while simultaneously magnifying the brutal reality of war. Their impact on warfare and military tactics is enduring. As we deal with today's complex battles, the history of machine guns teaches us important lessons. These lessons help guide current military strategies and influence how new weapons are designed. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.